Welcome, I'm iloivar, and this is my leg of the 2026 Conlangery Youtube Conlang Relay. A Conlang Relay is a game played by people who make up their own languages. It's similar to the game Telephone. You know, the one where you whisper something to the next person, and then they whisper it to the next person? It's kind of like that, but with the added challenge and transformation of translation. They translate it into their conlang and then pass that on to the next person, along with grammar notes and a lexicon so that the next person can translate it. Repeat, 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 and then compare notes and be entertained. This will be my second relay ever. Last year, I was super nervous ahead of time, kind of knowing a little bit about the language I would be following. Just figuring out what word I was looking at was the hardest bit of that translation. This year, I had no idea what to expect. Who I was going to be after changed a couple times, and then it ended up being Logan. I did know that Logan has a linguistics education, so I was a little worried that there might be some jargon I didn't understand. This year, I could just, look it up in the lexicon, and there it was. It was that simple in most cases, especially once I read the grammar, and then I could start glossing affixes as well. I felt amazed how fast this part of the translation went after last year, because I could just identify easily like 90% of the words just like that. On the other hand, I found myself stumped on a few things. For example, why doesn't my home have any electricity and therefore no internet? Why are some of these nouns both singular and plural? Are some of these suffixes stacked? Where are the verbs? Okay, pretty sure this is one of those languages that does not have verbs as we know them. Forging ahead, I did search up some of the linguistics terms that I was not as familiar with or didn't know at all, but it was very slow going with my cell service, not great up here, and the Wi-Fi was out because the power was out. I love living in ruralia, but it has its downsides at times. I do own a linguistics textbook. I do not know where it is. I did eventually reach out to Logan to ask a few questions. Luckily, the email did go through, and also I was able to receive Logan's reply. He did clarify a couple of things. I ended up with a rabble-scrabble gloss written across several sheets of paper. Only a handful of words had a little flag written over them, or a few little flags written over them, indicating words that were like low confidence translations, either because I had to make a judgment call or because I just wasn't sure what was going on with the affixes. I kept thinking, I'm gonna figure this out. And I did not ask as many questions as I probably should have. But there came a point where it was then like, it's too late to be asking questions. I have to wrap this up so that I can finish on time. So I reviewed my gloss, paying extra attention to affixes and drawing little brackets around groups of words that go together. I also took a moment to remind myself that transformational translations are part of what makes this game fun. And then I took my handwritten snake nest of text, and after reviewing it multiple times, just looked at it and let the meaning come into mind. And then I wrote some sentences in English based on that little, twinkle winkle in the brain. I had low confidence in the resulting text. Not least of all because it was rather abstract in meaning, at least based on the way I translated. So I then took those sentences I had written and just massaged them a little bit so they looked more like English sentences, and this is what I ended up with. At the distant river, passing by a hill, something has happened. There is a pair using a house in front of the wall of the hill. There is a great light. Therefore, the great woman separates them and said, "The capacity to speak from the mouth allows that any person may join to themselves and separate parts. The people carry that knowledge inside themselves. But instead, the story within a swamp is not that which the talon of the vulture desired, and the laws separated." Now, at this point, I did consider attempting to make it make sense, or attempting to fit it more to the culture that goes along with the Meoka language. However, there's not a lot that couldn't be part of their culture. There's no technology mentioned, there's no specific names, there's nothing here that couldn't be taking place in the city of Tailubi or the surrounding areas. And I figure I have transformed this text enough. I'm pretty sure this is not the English text that Logan started with. I'm just gonna leave it how it is. All that was left to do was translate it into my sweet baby conlang, Meoka. Translating it into Meoka was relatively simple, although I did have to make a few little decisions. For example, the text that I was given had a word for a pair of something. And in Meoka, I had to decide whether that was a pair of people, a pair of living things that are not people, or a pair of inanimate objects, like shoes. I decided, since that pair seemed to be using a house, that it would be people. Anyway, here is my text in Meoka. Otavio gula vima fe dodwaja mikosi fe tas uzuzusi banash. Husi shimoshio kekalafe le astafe banatsa. Hisalifloti ise takafula zusi ledo floto dai. Upoliosa, Jesusi apolusi sumim ise mingea lusebe mitakafula zusibe deso. Binguse lediswo lushishash, lipa alja jijife. Lefake kalagundaja balash tas azuseo dokimi zoetsinagi ise takafula zimuchwa. So that is what I sent off to Lexus, who is next in the relay. I can't wait to see the journey that this text went on. Also, the 2 other rings we have going on this year are going to be a riot to watch. I can't wait. I'm really looking forward to seeing everything that happened. So definitely check out the playlist in the doobly-doo. Also a link to Logan's and Lexus's videos.
By Iloivar.
That.